Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Daredevil number 190, cover dated January 1983. And this really is the climax of Frank Miller's original run on Daredevil. The storylines that are concluded in this particular double-sized issue, there are 38 pages of story and art inside, go all the way back to Miller's first full issue as writer-artist, that is 168 of the title, which introduced Elektra, and here she is on cover. So we've no cover caption to guide us in terms of what we're looking at here, but at the end of the previous issue, Stone revealed to Daredevil and Black Widow that the Hand's plan was to resurrect Elektra and make her into their master assassin. So obviously there's these tendrils of green energy around Elektra's body here, convey something of that attempt to resurrect her. Very cool art techniques on the cover here by Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. So it's pencils by Miller, inks and colors by Janson. We have a use of geoshade, which was a craft technique of the 1980s where you get lighter and darker tones, duo shading of grays. So we have that on the cover, as well as the color hold for the green tendril there, and also the yellow in the background behind Elektra's body. So a really well designed, eye-catching and intriguing cover. Let's open this one up to the first page, and it's a very surprising opening. It opens with a prologue, of course, prologue, and there will be an epilogue as well, and those are devices of tragedy, like Greek tragedy, Shakespearean tragedy. It kind of lends a literary gravity and prestige to the story itself. And as I said, it's a surprising prologue. Where are we? Where does it begin with? Who is this female character? Well, when we read the narration here, the third person narration, we learn that it's Elektra, that she's thinking of Matt. He's suffering, she knows, but he's strong, and his love for his world is even greater than his love for her. For the 1,000th time, she wonders what might have been had not the dream they shared been murdered an eternity ago. But that is behind her now. All she is left is a naked purpose, more driving and ruthless than even the gale force wind that threatens to topple her backward into the snow. The wind cannot stop her, nor can the knot in her stomach that had been hunger, nor the lancing pain in her thighs, nor the more frightening numbness in her feet. She's Elektra, and she will not die today. So the prologue is hinting that this is taking place perhaps in the past. That is what it will turn out to be the case. It takes place after Elektra left Columbia University in the wake of the assassination of her father, the Greek ambassador, and obviously leaving Matt Murdock behind, bereft of her love. And so years have passed and she is in the snow somewhere. So let's continue. This is a 12-page prologue before we get into the story that picks up from the previous issue. Really intriguing layouts here from Miller. These long vertical panels, seven of them across the 2 pages here. Then it is before her, the wall. She hears her sensei's words. You've mastered the arts of combat, Elektra, yet you know no peace. There's a place where men who are more than men rest and train and study, where warriors of a noble order have achieved a true and total peace of spirit. But it cannot be found unless you wander without direction, without hope, until, searching without seeking, you find it and scale a wall that cannot be scaled. So an impossible, paradoxical task that she's undertaking, and we can see her efforts in these panels, how she tumbles and falls off the wall, but someone there in a white warrior's garb sees her in the snow, and he's been hunting deer or antelope. Yeah, really great opening, and you can see the use of the duo shade there, the lighter and the darker grey tints. Let's continue with the prologue. So we have a black panel, and then we are looking out from Elektra's eyes. She's coming to and beginning to overhear some conversation between, well, is it Stone and Stick? Failed to climb, Stick. We should not have brought her here. She doesn't belong. And Stick demurs and says, shut up, she's coming around, and asks her, do you know who we are? Toots. That's Stick's favourite form of address for women, what we are. And she pauses and then says, no, but I want to be one of you. So note the youthfulness of her face there in that 3/4 profile, because we will see it bookended in the epilogue, an older woman. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's stick with this story. We have her training with Stick and his men. She's doing really well. And Stone says, I was wrong to urge her rejection. I'm inferring that it's Stone. He's the most senior member of Stick's warriors. And Stick says to him, no, you were right. And that's unexpected. And I like the conveying of emotion there, where Stick's face is slightly tilted down and the front of his face is in shadow. So Elektra is ecstatic. This is wonderful, Stick. This place, somehow it gives me strength, power. But Stick says to her, rather roughly, you gotta leave, Elektra. She thinks it's a mission, but he explains, no mission, just leave. You don't belong with us. And she's downcast, but I've given you all my all. I am as skilled as any of you. And Stick now comes around to giving something of an explanation. You ain't clean, he says, and remember that for later. You're full of pain and hate. All you've learned is how to use the pain. There's no place for you here, so go. And this is really interesting choice, the open border panel. She just lets the staff fall from her hand. And Stone is skeptical. Stick, perhaps with time, she. And Stick responds, her wounds are just too deep, Stone. Whatever happened to her down there, she can't shake it. Stone continues to argue with his master. We are in a war, Stick, if we lose her. And Stick responds, we never had her. Not for a second. But the enemy, they might enlist her? Yeah, they might, says Stick. And again, very evocative use of shadow here and lighting on Stick's downturned face. So he knows there's danger in terms of what Elektra's future might be. So Elektra returns to Japan and her old sensei there, and he realizes that she failed. But he tells her not to be downcast. Now you must learn to accept your lot. You must find other joys to fill your life. Feel no shame, he says. Stick's order is severe. I myself was cast out years ago. I myself, was found unworthy. But still I live to teach what little I know. You must find your own way. But Elektra is determined. Sensei, I cannot understand why. And he explains her kind of like psychodrama with her dead father. It was your father, Elektra. You loved him too dearly and he held you too closely. He built you a small, safe world that you loved. Your dream in college was to serve the world. But alas, that world was a fabrication ripped down by the senseless, pointless murder of your father. You see the world now as a chaotic place, huge and terrible. You hate it. Even so, your dream was a good one. You could yet. So he's kind of suggesting what you should do is go back to that dream of being a lawyer, just like Matt's dream, and serve the world that way. But she demurs. No, she says. This war, that's it Stick spoke of. I'm a part of it. I can feel it. So she feels a destiny inside her. I must prove myself to Stick somehow. These panels here are very reminiscent of the work that Miller would do in a couple of years' time on Dark Knight Returns, which he started working on in 1985. Really great use of shadow, the pattern of the screens here cast over the faces of Elektra and her sensei, and also great body language too, and expression of emotion in the characters' faces, most particularly the sensei's. So Elektra says, we shall see, will you help me find them? No, he says, but you will need no help. They have heard of you by now. They will find you. He means the hand. So she walks away. And that's a great book ending for these two pages. The yellow light of sunset and then the deep dark magenta of nighttime at the end of their interview. So the hand do indeed come and find Elektra. They've heard of her. They sense that maybe she might be of profit to them. So they come to her one night when she's sleeping, but she's alert, grabs the advanced ninja, breaks his neck, and then rather nonchalantly says to the others as their swords are drawn, "Would one of you please hand me my clothes?" So then she's taken to the underground lair of the Hand, and their Jonan is there. "You are Elektra, yes? We have watched you, Elektra. Your talents are many for one so lovely. But we do not speak of beauty here, oh no. We offer you position, employment, this robe." But Elektra plays her role here well. She's determined to make the Hand believe she wants to be one of them, but then go back to Stick, infiltrate the Hand for him. So the Jonan says, "Then the rumor is true. You trained with Stick." Sorry, she says to his offer of the robe of a common genin. "I'm insulted." And so he responds and says, "Then the rumor is true. You trained with Stick." And she confirms, "I did. But his way is soft, slow, and hardly profitable." So she's picking up on that implication that employment will lead to profit, giving them the sense that she does indeed want to be one of them. "So, you come to the Hand," he says. "We require a test." Of course. So there's going to be a rite of initiation, of passage into the Hand, and it's down the bottom of this deep, dark well pit. And turn the page and you see how eager Elektra is, or how fearless she is. She jumps right into the well. And there is a man down there with two sai, the sai that will become her chosen weapons, which is interesting. And then we get a page of fighting, mostly in silhouette. She breaks the man's neck with one kick and stabs him with the sai. And then the light goes on. The Jonan above holds up a lit torch, and she sees, and this is shocking, that it's her sensei, it's her Japanese sensei. And the Jonan says, "He was difficult to catch, yes, but once drugged, he served his purpose. Welcome, Elektra. Welcome to the Hand." So she's been blooded, and you can see on her face there her shock and horror. And in the third person narration, she does not scream. She thinks only of a cliff she will never climb, a peace she will never know. And so ends our 12-page prologue. That really is an excellent opening, telling us what happened to Elektra after she left America in the story told in 168, and before she turned up again as an adult mercenary ninja warrior herself, assassin. So here we're in the present again. We're picking up from the end of the previous issue, where Stone has determined that the Hand are intent on resurrecting Elektra. Daredevil sees, or senses rather, because of course he's blind, he doesn't see anything, but that they're digging, he can hear it, and Stone holds him back. Another moment now. So let's turn the page here. We get some great full page images. So a splash page here, the title of the story, Resurrection, and the Hand indeed have dug up Elektra, exhumed her coffin, and there is her dead cadaver inside in the coffin, and Stone and Daredevil leaping towards them. But it was a trap, or at least the Hand were wise to the fact that Daredevil and Stone would come after them to try and interfere with their scheme, and so they emerge from the earth, and now Stone and Daredevil are surrounded and outnumbered. But it's an interesting device here, because it looks like a double page spread, but actually it's two panels over the course of these 2 pages. And then we get our credits here. Frank Miller, writer and storyteller. So Miller providing layouts for the most part, but on some pages, particularly towards the end, the last couple of pages, he's providing full pencils. Klaus Janson, penciler, inker and colorist, and Joe Rosen on letters. So let's continue with the story. So we get the classic layout of the full horizontal panels for the fight sequences, and Daredevil and Stone had a plan. Black Widow has come along with them, and she's been hiding up in one of the trees, and she sets off these smoke bombs. One good thing about being blind, thinks Daredevil to himself, tear gas can't make me any blinder. Now let's find out what my other heightened senses can do. So in the confusion, he manages to identify the hand ninjas that are attacking him, and then he hears an interesting sound. The rotor blades of a helicopter, and so the Hand have a helicopter that they're using to fly away with Elektra's coffin and body. They have her, says Stone. At least we're still alive, replies Daredevil, thanks to our ace in the hole. Natasha the Black Widow, jet set super spy, so Daredevil hasn't lost his sense of humour. But Stone, much like Stick, has a darker perspective. Idiot, amateur, he exclaims, you prattle like a child. Well, we suffer defeat after defeat. And then he apologises. He catches himself and he says, I'm sorry. It was my plan that lost this day for us. I should not reprimand you. I fought in this war for too long. I'm weary. And that point of Stone's, his feeling weary, will continue through this issue and into a final and ultimate decision he makes towards the end of the story. Really great panel there of all the different headstones, and then the city, Manhattan, on the other side of the river there. Good stuff. So then the scene switches. This is interesting. Miller brings the Kingpin into things. So there's an assassin scaling the side of the Kingpin's Manhattan office skyscraper building, and he enters the Kingpin's office, but the Kingpin is too quick for him, shoves the desk right into the guy's chest, knocks the gun out of his hand, and gets right on top of him there. Who sent you? Quickly. The Kingpin's all business. The guy insists he's not going to tell, but the Kingpin is torturing him there, so he says it was Injun Joe. Kingpin laconically responds, thank you, and snaps the guy's neck with one punch. And so Kingpin's personal assistant, Flint, arrives and says to him, we've trouble, Flint. Says the Kingpin, mutiny. My control over the East Coast mobs is slipping, because why else would Injun Joe send an assassin? We must make them aware of how very much they need me. So Flint says, I got lines out for a new enforcer, even as he lights the Kingpin cigar. And Kingpin, blowing smoke out his nose, says, keep those lines out, Flint. I shall try to formulate another solution. So this is going to go somewhere interesting in this issue, and it correlates with a decision that Daredevil makes. Stone says to him, but you tried before, Murdoch. You could not find where the ninja hide. So obviously Daredevil has suggested that they try and find out where the Hand are taking Elektra. And he responds as he runs off, I couldn't find them by myself, so I'm getting help. Now that leaves Black Widow behind with Stone. And she confides in Stone that she's worried about Daredevil. And he responds and says, very interestingly, he is an odd one. Just as Stick rejected Elektra, and now we've discovered all of that in the prologue, so could he not enlist a Daredevil. But why is it? Is it because of pain and anger, which was the problem with Elektra? No, it's something different with Matt Murdock, Daredevil. The adventurer cannot control his passions, says Stone. Emotions are dangerous to us in this struggle. I fear his may be hot enough to make him betray us. He loved Elektra. He may still carry her in his heart, he says. When the time comes, if come it does, can we count on his aid, he asks. Will he help us stop her resurrection, or will he become our enemy? And Natasha insists he's a good man, Stone. And Stone says finally, yes, perhaps. Stick could have taught him the way, but Stick is dead, and I grow old, and there is no one to replace me. And there we are, looking at Elektra's headstone. And this is really clever stuff, really clever foreshadowing here that only makes sense on a rereading, that that Miller is implying that the one to replace Stone would be Elektra. So let's continue with the story. The help that Daredevil seeks is from Kingpin. Kingpin makes a joke. It's sad to see you go insane. You're an entertaining foe. But Daredevil says, I'm serious. If I can't find the hideout of the Hand, and soon Elektra will be brought back to life. So Kingpin says, well, you know, why is that bad for me? I've been trying to fill her position in my organization ever since she died. And Daredevil, he's alert to this goon on the floor, one of Kingpin's security team, and just nonchalantly kicks the handgun out of his hand. And he says, without even, raising a sweat, he says, if she returns, she'll serve the Hand. Will you find them for me? So the Kingpin thinks and says yes, but there's something you must do for me in return. So the Kingpin, always scheming. You never get nothing, or you never get something for nothing from the Kingpin. There's a quid pro quo here. And what is it? Well, let's get past these advertisements. You can see we're midway through the issue at this point. So Miller fits in a little comic scene with Grotto and Turk as well, where Daredevil passes by them, and Turk says to Daredevil, even as Grotto's hiding behind him, "Nice night, huh?" And then he pulls his handgun on Daredevil, and Daredevil just knocks him in the head, knocks him out with his billy club, and Grotto there just watching in horror and grabs Turk before he falls to the ground. Daredevil simply asks, "How many in the warehouse?" So Grotto gives up his boss, Injun Joe, and 4. They got guns. And Daredevil responds, "They always do, but he's the man without fear." So in he leaps through the door and takes out Injun Joe's men and Injun Joe himself. And one of Kingpin's men is there. "The police get these men as agreed." "Sure," says Kingpin's man. And the Kingpin says thanks. And he gives Daredevil the location of the Hand, like where they're going, an abandoned church. So really good stuff. And here we are again, just in the same manner in which Kirigi was resurrected a couple of issues ago. We have now the attempted resurrection of Elektra in the same church. And we can see, like, this is a corpse here. It really shows in the art and in the coloring. And the master of ceremonies of this occult ritual says, "This ceremony shall make her ours forever. Now, my brothers, it is time. Empty your souls to Elektra. Your blood is hers, your lives, your flesh hers." And then some color starts coming into her face, into her cheeks there. And just at that moment, Daredevil and Stone smash through the Gothic window just at the 11th hour. And now we're going to get a fight. So Stone, well, Matt says, or Daredevil says to Stone, "Joints crawling with the Hand, then let them burn," says Stone. So he sends off a smoke bomb, and the place starts to go on fire. That will slow them down long enough, he says, for him to do the job and make sure that they can't resurrect Elektra. Meanwhile, Black Widow is up in the rafters above these archers, and she says, "Stone's a sharp guy. He figured there'd be archers in the rafters, so he sent me." But she's not so fast as to avoid getting an arrow right through her right shoulder. It's a great anchor image there, borderless panel as well, which really makes the anchor image pop with the white background. Stone and Daredevil making their way towards the altar where Elektra's corpse is laid out. And then Daredevil gets a shock. "What the?" he thinks. And we get a zoom in on Elektra's face. There's some plumpness in those cheeks. Look at her earring shining as well. And he hears a heartbeat. Great double lighting on his face there as well. Great use of the ink brush in the background to indicate the tongues of flame of the fire that is now burning in the abandoned church. More horizontal, full page-length horizontal panels as Stone readies to decapitate Elektra, and he says to Daredevil, "My back, Murdoch. I'm impervious, but only when I'm aware of attack." Just as this hand ninja is getting ready to throw that sword right into Stone's back, Stone calls Daredevil an idiot. "They're upon us." And then he asks for aid. "The wound is deep, even with my strength." But Matt is obsessed with Elektra and the heartbeat. No heartbeat now, he thinks, but I heard one. I did. So this is exactly what Stone feared, that Daredevil's love for Elektra would yield a betrayal of their purpose at the worst possible time. "It will not work, Murdoch," says Stone. "You're not trained." So this Daredevil witnessed in the previous issue when Black Widow was brought back to life by Stick and and I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Shaft moving energy around. I love you, Elektra. He thinks, if there's any way to bring you back, I'll do it, even if it kills me. So Stone is under pressure here. You do not know the way, he says. Murdoch, help me. And Daredevil's concentrating. Stick said, it's just a matter of moving energy. So he's focused on Elektra, trying to transmit some of his life energy into her to bring her back to life. And we get this sequence of 4 silent panels where he's really trying hard there, and it looks like he's failed, but then something happens. Some blood flows out of his nose, and it looks like he's defeated. I couldn't do it, Elektra. Just don't know how. I'm sorry. So it looks like they're in big trouble, surrounded by hand ninjas. And then, just at the most dangerous point, a very unexpected rescue team arrives. And it's the Kingpin's men. And they're there, machine gunning down the hand ninjas. And they're even there to help Black Widow, hurt but alive. Here's the Widder. I like that kind of New York accent that Miller writes into the dialogue. So this goon who's leading them says, get her out of here. Take care of Hornhead. What about the big one? He's a friend, says Daredevil. You men, who sent you? Who else? The Kingpin. The Kingpin, but why? One of Kingpin's men is there trying to help Stone out, but he says, leave me. And the guy isn't going to argue the point. So Stone is left in the burning church, standing in front of Elektra's corpse. So, and he raises up his sword. That's a great upshot there of him. The flames in the background, and so it ends, he thinks. And then a surprise. What? Something about her. He thinks to himself, she's clean. And remember Stick's words in the prologue, where the reason he told Elektra to leave was because she was not clean. And she's clean now. And Stone is baffled. How? And then he realizes it was Murdoch. Somehow in his futile attempt to revive her, because he didn't know how to do it, he wasn't trained in moving the energy around, he's purged her. She's clean. And then he thinks, like he did in the graveyard earlier, I'm weary. So we have a really interesting scene outside the burning church here between Daredevil and Kingpin. And Kingpin asks Daredevil, he shows up in this car. He asks Daredevil, confused. And he says, you wonder why I saved your life, do you not? Consider it an illustration of the true nature of our relationship. Your attack on Injun Joe has served to quell a mutiny in my organization. It demonstrated to the mobs that you're a common enemy against whom they need protection that I provide. Consider also, Daredevil, that when you needed to find this hideout, you did not contact the police, you came to me. And this is really excellent. What's coming next in this panel? We get this close-up on his face, and again, that use of duo shade as well. We need each other, Daredevil, he says. We are partners after a fashion, as he smiles. And I love this line. We are the power in this city. So Daredevil says nothing in reply as the Kingpin is driven off. And Black Widow asks, well, where's Stone? Daredevil says, I don't know. He's still in the church, wounded. The fire. So Black Widow, the two of them race inside. The church is burning. The fire brigade haven't arrived. I don't think he's in here, Natasha, says Daredevil. Elektra's body is gone. He must have taken it, and I guess he just did what he had to do. So Daredevil's thinking that Stone decapitated Elektra and has taken the body away to be destroyed. But look what Natasha finds. She finds Stone's robe. And she casts it into the fire. And the thing is she doesn't say that to Daredevil. She says simply, we all do what we have to, Matt. What do you mean by that remark? He asks. Nothing, let's go home. So Daredevil can't see, of course. He didn't see the robe. He doesn't know what Natasha is doing. She doesn't explain herself. But has she inferred what Stone did? That he moved energy around and brought back to life the purged, the clean Elektra? He was too weary to build a team of warriors again to fight the ninja and made a decision. Well, it's in the epilogue that we get our answer. Third person narration. He must never know. Matt Daredevil must never know. He must seek his own destiny, live the life he knows, and perhaps in time forget her. She seeks a destiny of her own. The one that she sensed in the prologue. She scales a wall that cannot be scaled. This icy mountain side. And here we see it, silent panels here, 4 tall vertical panels. And she succeeds. Really great stuff. Letters page here about issue 188. Let's skip past that. Not interested in that in the moment. And boom, it's Elektra. And she's not wearing her red headscarf anymore. She's wearing a white one. And remember that 3/4 profile I pointed out earlier? She's an older woman now. It's her Resurrected. There we go. And Frank Miller's signature, Janson. So Miller's doing the pencils on this one. And then finally, she takes off the coat and she's wearing all white. She's been purged. She's clean. She's going to fight the Hand now and potentially rebuild Stick's band of warriors. What a great ending. And it made me think about what happened with Jean Grey in the Dark Phoenix saga. How Jim Shooter, remember Jim Shooter's editor-in-chief for this issue, how Jim Shooter demanded after Dark Phoenix destroyed Debari, the star of Debari, the planet Debari, and 5 billion sentient intelligent beings died, and Shooter demanded that Jean pay a price for that. So Byrne and Claremont came up with the proposal that she commit suicide, and that satisfied Shooter. He felt like the moral scales were balanced. So what about Elektra? Probably Shooter had no objection to Miller killing Elektra in issue 181, well, having Bullseye do it in the story, because Elektra was an assassin, because she killed people, because she was bad, quote unquote. So what's really radical here is that Miller redeems her, gives her this redemption arc, rounds out her story from issue 168 to 190, and she ends up purged, clean, redeemed by the end. That's really good stuff. Really nicely done, and in contrast to what happened to poor old Jean Grey a couple of years earlier. Well, there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Daredevil 190. This is in many ways the climax of Frank Miller's original run on the title. There is one more issue, 191, and the story is entitled Roulette, so I will be looking at that in due course. I do hope you enjoyed my review and commentary of this particular issue. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section to the video. If you enjoyed my review, please like the video in YouTube and share it. It really does help the channel. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.